Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Monstrology. Monstrology is a self-published title. It's for 2 to 10 players, ages 8 and up, and games can range anywhere from 30 to 180 minutes. So, you've chosen to study Monstrology. The academic study of imaginary monsters is a challenging profession, not to mention a dangerous one. But we in the Academy believe that ultimately it's also a highly rewarding career. After all, who can imagine life without an imaginary monster? How would you fly to school in the morning? Or burrow to the center of the earth in search of precious gemstones? Or simultaneously do the dishes, scrub the toilets, and compose an epic poem, all with one tentacle, free for cuddling? Monstrology is undoubtedly a challenging endeavor. Everyone knows that imaginary monsters are very personal subjects. Usually, we don't share the intimate details of our personal monsters with other people, even our closest non-imaginary friends. Discussing an imaginary monster's appearance is not only rude, it's also metaphysically perilous. Even novices understand the risk of rupturing the thin veil that separates imagination and reality, which might result in either the actualization of a monster or the imaginization of a human. It's hard to explain how the process works because it involves a lot of imaginary numbers. But those risks will not deter a group of serious monstrologists. Nothing must stand in the way of science. Monstrology is a game about reaching into your friends' and family's imaginations and letting them reach back into yours. Your goal is to achieve the rank of Monster Whisperer, or the highest rank you can, before your monsters get too tired or bored or start to chew on your toes. So, every round of the game, one player plays as the subject. They will be drawing a card from the monster deck. Now, there's all kinds of different monsters here, some really neat whimsical types with all kinds of traits and possibilities for you to think about when you try to convey them to your fellow players. Now, you as the subject, you have to remain silent throughout the round. However, you do have a way to convey your monster to the other players by picking a taxonomy rubric. And so, your monster is a deeply personal thing. You will keep this card secret, face down from the other players. After studying it a bit though, you're going to choose one of these rubrics, and you have 3 different types. The first one we're going to take a look at is ratings, simply a 1 to 5 rating. And it might be more like Batman or not at all like Batman. Lots of different choices for the ratings. Or you might select a choices rubric. Now, the thing here is that you can have up to 18 possible choices on this board. However, you're only going to be picking 3 of them, but each of them might be a little more descriptive around the type of monster that you have in your hand. And finally, the third type of rubric you might choose is ranges. Now, this one tends to be a little more difficult for beginners or for younger players, but there's some interesting aspects here because it is polar opposites. You might be energetic versus sleepy, things like that. But it's a range from one end to the other, placing your token on the board. Now, once your monster is chosen and you've picked your rubric and placed all your tokens on the board, well then, based on the current level of play, you'll draw that many more cards, shuffle it up with your monster, and then display them out for all to see, and the investigators get to now talk amongst themselves. Based on your clues, they're obviously trying to figure out which one of these monsters is yours. And they'll go back and forth this way and trying to solve. And if the investigators do solve which monster is correct, well then you'll move on to the next level. And all that really means is that as you move through the different levels, you're just going to be adding more and more cards that are going to be displayed out for the investigators to deal with on every particular turn. So your starting level is Tentacle Grip, where you'll be adding 2 extra cards to the mix out on the table. But as you work your way all the way up to Monster Whisperer, at that point you're going to be adding an additional 9 cards, making it just that much harder to solve. So you hope to make it through all the rounds and eventually become the Monster Whisperer. Alright folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, this is definitely a family weight game, and the oversized cards with all the amazing artwork of these monsters, just fun and whimsical. They've all got crazy traits, just some really interesting directions you can go with your imagination as you try to convey to the other players all the possible traits or whatever you've chosen for a rubric to convey to your fellow players. I like that there's lots of choices of how you can give clues, but ultimately, folks, if this looks like something that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.